Hey everybody, it's me, Motor City Migrant. So, I did a DNA test a few years ago, found out my father wasn't my father. And life has been kind of wild ever since then. I've been making videos, giving people advice about what to do if you find out through a DNA test that you just took for the hell of it that your father wasn't your father, your mother's not your mother, or neither one of your parents are your parents, and you're actually adopted. It's happening to a lot of people. They suggested like 1 in 20 people are unknowingly being raised by someone who's not their biological parent. However, instead of advice today, I want to talk about like a philosophical question, and I want to share some of my experiences that are leading me to have this question. So my question is, do our genes have memory? I was raised completely outside of the culture that I am biologically. There were several interesting things or coincidences perhaps about my life that led me to explore and learn and be a part of a culture very similar to what I did not know was my own. I found out through this DNA test that I took that I was half Cuban, and I was raised by 2 white folks in Detroit. Thought I was just American, Southern American, as a matter of fact. Both of my parents were from the Deep South, my parents being the people that raised me. However, I speak Spanish. I was fascinated by it ever since I could remember. I grew up in Southwest Detroit, and a lot of people spoke Spanish. A lot of my friends spoke Spanish at home. And then you might think that's it, but also a lot of my friends spoke Polish. A lot of my friends spoke Polish at home. There were a lot of different languages, and it was a very multicultural neighborhood that I grew up in, but I was drawn to Spanish. Starting with my friend group in the city, I started learning Spanish from them, from their houses, and I started studying it in high school, and I minored in it in college, and I just insisted on learning, to speak Spanish. I'm the only one of my mother's 6 children who ever felt this way about learning Spanish. We all grew up in the same environment. Additionally, I think 19 or 20, I started taking flamenco dance classes, and I performed at a Latin World Festival in Hart Plaza in Detroit when I was like 20. In addition, in I say my early 30s, I started taking up salsa dancing, and from when I was growing up, I already knew how to dance merengue and some cumbia and some bachata from living in the neighborhood, but I really kind of threw myself into salsa. So in addition to those kinds of things, like there were some other things that were really strange, like the situation with the Basque people who were fighting for independence, wanting their own independence from Spain for the longest time. And I was always very kind of upset about it. Like, why don't they just let them have their own country? This is when I was young, when it was going on, and there was a lot of violence, much like in Ireland. There was a lot of violence going on with separatist movements. I also was upset about those as well. But the fact that I was so upset by the situation of the Basque people was strange. And then, my DNA test tells me that I'm Spanish. I'm Cuban, so I'm Spanish, but I'm also a good bit Basque. And so is that in my genes? Is that fight in my genes? Is that language affinity in my genes? Is that music affinity in my genes? Do you think that our genes have memory? I could go on with a few more, but I don't want to make this video too long or nobody will watch it. So what do you think? Do you have similar experiences? Do you feel like your genes have memory? I would love to hear about it.